Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 1% Better Recruitment podcast with your host, Charles Kiriakou. Today, I'm joined by James Lovell-Butt, and I'm just going to preface this to start with. The first time James and I ever spoke on the phone, we spoke for an hour, and James, I'm sure you will agree, if we clicked record on that, that could have made for a pretty good podcast, I would say.
I'd say we potentially be number one across the world with what we were talking about. Like, that'd be it. You've hit the jackpot. Stardom, everyone. Joe Rogan will be listening. So yeah, it was a really good call, wasn't it? And we knew that there was something there. So yeah, hence why we're here now, mate. But yeah, it was really good.
Amazing. Well, look, I'm fully caffeinated up. We're going to get into this. Topics we're going to discuss are going to be quite broad. There's going to be a few different things. I'm going to pass the microphone over to James in a second because for people that don't know James, you've got a really interesting story. You're going to tell us a little bit about both your business journey, your personal journey as well. And there's a few similarities we've had in terms of the ADHD, the mental health journey. You've obviously opened up a sister company. We're going to talk about that because there's going to be a few people that either want to set up their own agency or have an established one, want to set up a sister company. So there's going to be loads of value that you can add there. And then the other topic, we had a bit of a joke before we clicked record. You talk a lot about the 1% Club, and here you are on the 1% Better Recruitment podcast. So
There you go.
written in the
It worked.
stars.
Yeah, that is wicked. That'd be really good.
Awesome. So again, yeah. So for people that don't know you, James, tell us a little bit about your journey in recruitment, and obviously we'll talk about your journey in life as well.
Yeah, so going into year 18 of recruitment, which makes me sound really old. But I'm actually only 38. So it's pretty much my whole adult life in terms of business has been in recruitment. Um, Started as most people do in recruitment, fell into it is like the analogy, isn't it? Everyone says you fall into recruitment. I pretty much did. I worked in advertising, sales. I come from a sales background, always been a salesman from early age. I'm not going to say I stood and sold sweets in the school playground, but I was probably eating the sweets, not selling them. But I so yeah, got into recruitment around 20. Was working in advertising. Had like a commission threshold, and someone just turned around to me once, a friend of a friend, and said, "Have you ever thought about recruitment?" And I was like, "Not really." Like no one else has really at the time. But blah blah blah. Fast forward, went for an interview with a company called Proactive, based over in Egham in Surrey, and just got the job. Obviously, went into construction recruitment, mainly in like the steel workspace. Chucked straight in the deep end, but where it was like, for anyone who's even listening to this, who's a salesperson but not in recruitment, but if you genuinely believe you're hungry and you want the world to be yours, so recruitment is the one. Like, it is a sales job. Anyone tells you it's not, they're lying. So I was like out and out salesperson. Like, I would set the whole Sam to the Arabs mode. Like, I literally would sell anything. So I really pushed myself there. Just got myself into a position where I class myself as one of the best in the niche industry we worked in. And then yeah, so like fast forward 7 years there, give or take. Set up something with a friend of mine who was actually at the time my manager, who I owe a lot to, a guy called Chris Jones. Became my best friend. We're still friends now. But yeah, he had that. He was the guy, walked in an office, had that aura about him, and I wanted to be like him, and blah blah blah. But we set up our own thing. It didn't work out, and I was like, right, I'm gonna do this on my own. And I remember ringing my mum up and going, guess what? I'm not working with my friend anymore, and I'm going to go and do it. She's like, "Oh yeah, come on, just like you must be," because we were doing really well. Like, we were doing really well, and then yeah, I just, it was the typical in the kitchen on the laptop. I come from very humble beginnings, so I even used to go down to randomly her work in the Premier Inn and use the Wi-Fi. Just not a sob story of violin, but just how it was. Showed that I was willing to graft. Fast forward to today, and we're now in year 9. Again, I might be wrong. I'll have to look at my own LinkedIn. But in year 9 of the Solution Group, we've got an office in central London. We've got just turning to 10 employees here, actually. And yeah, we're due to turn over about £7 million this year. So something worked out. I don't know. But that's like start to finish in a nutshell. Still involved in the industry I just started. I never left steelwork construction recruitment.
Mm.
The biggest milestone along my career in terms of going from being a trainee myself to now a business owner and running what I'm running is I brought in two guys. At first I brought in a guy called Sam. He was the other guy in town doing steelwork.
Mm.
And he's like a junior version of me in terms of age, especially he's 31. But everywhere I looked, he was. Everywhere he looked, I was.
Mm.
And then his name was popping up too much for my liking. Went down the route, come and work with me. He did after a lot of persuasion. And the same with another guy called Harry. Got them all in, brought them all in, and we're now in the room together. So, yeah, yeah, that's how it got in there, really, mate, without digressing.
Yeah, amazing. Well, there's a lot to unpack, and I remember when we first spoke on the phone, you said that you went through some sort of personal issues in the last few years or so. And I asked you before we click record because I know there's a lot of people, and to be fair, I'm sure you all agree with me. In the recruitment industry, there's a lot of bravado, there's a lot of ego, there's a lot of pride, and there's not very many people that will openly talk about issues that they've gone through, especially with like the mental health stuff. And people can see on my LinkedIn profile, I was a mental health first aider in my last company. I was a champion at the mental health and recruitment, and I was very vocal about my own ups and downs in my life when it came to mental health. And I never posted about it to get likes. I know there's some weird people that do that because it generates a lot of likes when you share your story. But I think I generated a lot of eyes and views because not very many men talk about it. And I think that's
So
a
true.
real big issue in recruitment. And I work with a lot of recruiters, and a lot of the blokes will just shell up, get on with it, man up. And there is an element that sometimes you have to do that to just crack on with things. But there are some times where you do need to seek professional help, that you do need to go and speak to people. So yeah, I mean, tell us about your journey with mental health.
Yeah. No, and like you just said, when we spoke on the phone, I think we had that sort of brought us together in terms of we never spoke, have we? Like a couple of messages on LinkedIn, etc., and going back and forth. When we spoke on the phone, I genuinely felt like we'd known each other for a long time. It just felt like that. And yeah, mental health, I'm the same as you. I've done a couple of posts for my Facebook, and the reason I've done it is because from the outside, I've got everything. I have the nice car. I'm married. I've got children. I've got a lovely house. I've got koi carps swimming around in my garden. And I run a business, and it's like, well, he's fine. Like, he's always been fine. He's always done this. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to tell the world about it and try and break this barrier. And yeah, it did happen to me. And it's not me trying to get other people to be like, oh, I hope you're okay. That's actually that's the opposite we want. And like you say, about 2 years ago, and I was actually looking for the date the other day, and I used to remember the date all the time, and I now don't, and I haven't got the date, which is good. This is ADHD talking. But it's so yeah, rewind, let's about a year and a half ago. Again, nothing had actually changed, but I woke up one day and this is the honest truth, I was in tears. Like, and for me, I'm a 6'5" man with 3 boys, and like, it just shouldn't be me. But I genuinely woke up where I felt like, what am I doing here? And that's the feeling I had. And it's emotional. It's probably not nice to hear. But I genuinely, literally was like, I was scared. That's the best way of explaining it. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. Like my wife, Emma, woke up, and I was like, I was sweating. I was in tears. I was scared. And like, that's not, for a man, it's really hard to admit, but I'm more than happy to do that. But I think for her point of view, it's like, this is the protector of the house, and there's obviously something really wrong. So extremely scared. I wouldn't use the word suicidal because I think we even mentioned I'm probably too scared to do anything about it. I'd rather just let God take his course. But I genuinely had like a feeling of, what is James? What am I here for? What am I doing? And because I didn't know the answer, and I'm so used to knowing the answer to everything I try and be involved in, that I just had this whole feeling of like, what the hell? Like, what is this? And unfortunately, we got a good doctor. We rang them because I literally that my brain was like full of like demons as such.
Mm.
Went and saw the doctor, opened up about it, and I remember sitting with the doctor and saying, I know this is out of the ordinary because someone like me shouldn't be feeling like this because obviously like I'm fine like and all that, and he just gone, James, stop, mate. He's like, you are the reason you're feeling like this because of the way you are. You are so engrossed in the next step, the next step, the bar's being raised, the bar's being raised. You've got, it's like you see these quotes on Instagram. Fast, rewind 5 years and look where you are now, sit back and actually breathe and go, wow, look where I've come from. Or you're living your dream that you had when you were younger. Okay, I am. I have got everything I could ever imagine that I would have liked when I was younger. But now I'm like, well, I want a bigger garage. I want a bigger garden. I want another car. I want a zero on the end of the turnover. I want 100 employees. And he was like, this is just normal. And then obviously we spoke, and again, openly speaking with you before and now, used some medication because it was very involved in anxiety. And it's probably, I'm not an anxious person. I'm sitting here doing a podcast with a guy I met about a month ago. And I will talk in front of a million people, no problem. It's more about, it was like the anxiety, the mental stress of over stressing myself. So yeah, sat down. I'm on medication. We increased it. I feel like I'm in a really good place now. I think the medication is definitely helping, I guess. Also went and saw a therapist in London. I actually need to rebook her because it's something that you should do, especially if you're in like it's a high pressure job, what we do. Recruitment, even if you're a consultant or you're a founder of 2 recruit companies and whatever else that goes in our crazy minds. I think it's good to have someone to openly talk to. And I think like even when you and me spoke, because we were strangers, we felt easier to talk to than we would your best mate down the pub. So yeah, I think it just come out, and I think I look back at it and think, well, it's just burnout. Like my body needs a break. Like I need to also be able to say, you know what, James, we're doing all right, mate. Like we're actually okay. We're flying. Look around you. Look what you're providing. Look at how much life you're enjoying. And then there's a fine line. Like I'm not going to go, right, that's it. I'm not in recruitment anymore. I'm going to go and cut the gherkins and put them in burgers in Burger King. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but and totally change my life because that's just not our characters. Like, but I have to realize that for all the power, stress, intense money chasing, you also do need to be really grateful sometimes and sit back and go, do you know what? Gratitude. And I know people do these writing in the morning. I tried that, not for me because my ADHD brain is got a bit bored of writing the same crap. But I know it's a good thing, but not for me. And I'm sure it works for others. Definitely does work for others. But it is that. It's like, yes, that anyone can struggle, like anyone. It doesn't matter whether you're homeless on the streets with a crazy drug addiction, because in terms of my world and their world, yeah, they've got a lot to worry about. And it looks like I haven't, but flip it on its head, I've got to live with my brain 24/7. That is, we should be best friends. And that's the hard bit. And at the end of the day, everyone's got their own journey. Everyone's got their own problems. And even speaking with a therapist really helped because she explained that she's had like billionaires in London come and see her, literally billionaires who are so scared of it all going back down to zero. And you're like, we're sitting there going, oh, I wouldn't mind being a flipping multi-millionaire, let alone a billionaire. And it's just relative to what you do.
Relative.
So I think talking about it in this day and age, we're not in the 1950s. We're not my granddad. My granddad would have, who knows what some of them guys went through, but they would have never spoke about it. 100%. It just wasn't allowed. You were weak. My granddad was a tough, old, like fashion man, hands the size of my laptop. So for him to talk about something like that whole man in brackets impression goes out the window. But like today, I walk down the road. I'm no rugby player, but you'd look at me and be like, that's a big guy. Like, there's nothing wrong with his brain. He's strutting down the road and loving life. Well, come and have a little day out in my brain for a day, and you'll soon see that this is just a shell, isn't it? We're all human. We've all got problems, and you have to talk about it. I don't care. And like you said about being an advocate for mental health, and something that hopefully you and me maybe do something in the future with, is just getting that out there, making recruiters understand, especially recruiters, because
Mm.
it is a very intense job. But just understanding that whole, like, it is okay to not be okay. And I know it's a bit of a hashtag, but it genuinely is. And
Mhm.
that the minute you can talk about it now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not fixed as such, but I now understand, and understanding it and realizing you're not the only one. Clouds come, clouds go, and what you can do about it, it just helps. And I'm still here talking to you, and yeah, still stressed. I'm going grey. I'm really grey, but I'm not crying, and I'm okay. So I think that's the way to talk about it, really, mate. I think
Yeah.
if that makes any sense to anyone out there.
It does, mate, and again, thank you very much for sharing it, because I think we need more men to talk about it. To be honest with you, because we spoke at length, both of our stories, and I may have mentioned this once or twice on the podcast or on my LinkedIn post before, but I explained to you when we first spoke that when I think I was 10 years old, before I was going into secondary school, my mum got diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was like really, really bad. My dad was basically useless, to be honest with you. So we were being looked after by him while she was in and out of life-threatening surgery. Grandparents lived in Cyprus. They relocated to the UK to look after us because my dad was useless.
Wow.
Mum finally beat cancer, but due to the treatment, she developed osteoporosis, which meant that her bones were super brittle. So her bone structure now is that of a 99-year-old, and she's only 60. So if I just
Wow.
flick her like that, she'll break her arm, right? So
Bloody
throughout
hell.
the ages
Gosh.
of like 15 to where I'm 30, she's broken most bones in her body. She's had to have both her hips replaced, her knees have had been replaced, recon surgery, everything. Dad left home when I was 15. I had a family member that was in prison, lost both my grandparents, couldn't hold down a job, undiagnosed ADHD. That would break a lot of people. And it's not me sitting here.
Half of that would break a lot of people, let alone all of that, mate.
Exactly. And this isn't me sitting there, oh, yeah, I'm Mr. fucking tough man or whatever. But I was at breaking point, and I spoke to you about this. I literally hit rock bottom because I would wake up every morning and not want to leave my bed, and didn't leave my bedroom for months, lost so much weight because I was refusing to eat, because I was brought up in a household that was like, do not tell people the family issues because it makes us look weak. And as a man, and when my dad left home, I had to be the man of the house. So I was taught, hold it all in. So I
Yeah.
had that all in until one day I just completely broke down and was like, this life is pointless. Go to the doctor, similar to what you said, fill out a questionnaire. And I had chronic depression. And they were like, you literally, we have to put you on a suicide watch list because you are like literally on breaking point of taking your own life. And a lot of people will cut their wrists, they'll get into drugs. Sounds really silly, but my drug was just sitting at home and playing PlayStation and not speaking to anyone and isolating myself. That was kind of my
Yeah.
drug, which
It's
people look
crazy,
at.
isn't it?
And like you said, people, you walk down the street, people see you and go, "Oh, you're fine." When I tell people that I would sit at home playing FIFA and Grand Theft Auto, people, that's not bad. At least you weren't doing drugs.
Yeah,
But I
right.
wasn't eating, I wasn't seeing people, I wasn't doing anything. I couldn't get a job. We were having bailiffs knock on the door pretty much every other day because my dad left us with loads of debt. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So now for me as a fully grown man, and I've got that story, there's two things. Firstly, if you have that story, don't be afraid of sharing it, because someone might listen to that and go, fucking hell, do you know what? That person's kind of got through that. Maybe that gives me a bit of inspiration for me to get through that. And secondly, you kind of break down that barrier of these macho men that think that they can power through life no matter what. When, like you said, you're a 6'5" successful businessman and you've gone through your own personal shit. Do you know what I mean? So
So true, isn't it?
it's all relevant. Everyone has their own demons, but it's all relevant, and it's all kind of how we deal with it, how we process it. So one thing I want to ask you, you obviously mentioned the therapy. That was one thing that really helped you kind of combat that, and obviously the medication aspect and stuff. Was there any like tools, techniques, strategies that you've used from the therapy that you use in everyday life? I know you mentioned obviously you tried journaling. I tried that. I didn't get on with it. There's things
Yeah,
I use.
I
Is there anything
think
that you used?
there's a random one, and it sounds probably a little bit crazy, but we are slightly crazy. Well, we know the answer to that, but we're not crazy. They are, and I think yeah, the thing that always sits in my mind, and I remember what the lady said to me is, she always used to say that you'd it is that whole dark clouds on a sunny day. And basically, she said this thing, and some people might work, some people not. As long as it can work for one, is you sort of close your eyes. It depends on where you are, not when you're driving. But if you close your eyes and you just imagine your head is like a house with no windows, right? Okay, so it's full up with dark clouds, it's full up with
Mhm.
demons, it's full up with all these horrible bad thoughts and what have you. And then you've got to in the middle of like the room and in the middle of your head, you're imagining a window that's just appeared, and the window opens, and all this bright sunshine is like trying to flood in, but it can't until you release the demons and the clouds in terms. And it was like, let them out, let them out. They can't come back in. It's a one-way door, but the sun can break in and fill your brain up again with nice thoughts. And even though that sounds a bit like, it is obviously very therapy, psychological book stuff, but my therapist, one of the best in London, in all fairness, she said that has stuck in my brain. And don't get me wrong, I've never gone back to that day that I call the worst day of my life in terms of my own personal journey. But there's been times when I even say to my missus, like, my brain, if I say my brain feels a bit cloudy, it's a bit like that. But every single time now, I will practice that. And to the point where it just works. Cold showers are amazing. Drinking water, fresh air. Fresh air is amazing, like for stuff like that. And obviously, like you said, you locked yourself away. Yes, you were playing PlayStation games. Some people, it sounds great. Yeah, sounds great to the people that can do it for 2 hours and then go out and live a normal life. But you're in your own prison cell. But that was your defense mechanism. You locked yourself away. You put yourself in a room where you felt safe. The duvet feels safe. Like your PlayStation in another world feels safe. And it's similar. And it's just find your safe place. Definitely, I've always gone to the gym. My diet is horrendous, but I always go to the gym. But there's so much stuff with your diet as well. And obviously, being salespeople, recruiters, just look in my bin on a Friday in the office, you'll be like, flipping it, you haven't eaten all that. Blah, no, sort of. And you got Colin the Caterpillar cake and a load of squishy sweets and God knows how much Coca-Cola. But I think that was the one thing that stuck in my mind, is like, just imagine it. And at the end of the day, they're just thoughts, like, and they're just problems, and you just have to address it. And some things you can't address, like you say, we don't have. I don't have anything that I'm worried about in my life. Like, I genuinely don't. Open table. I'm not like hiding from the therapist. Oh, actually, I'm really worried about something. But all the little worries I had, I just spoke about, and they're really random stuff. And the woman would just be like, that's normal. And then I think because you've never spoke about it, because it's borderline what I'm on about, and for someone to go, it's actually normal, you're like, oh, wicked, cool, I'll crack on there. See you later, love. Bye, I'm on now. But yeah, I just think, that's the thing that stuck with me, is just having that like release. I've read the odd anxiety book and stuff. I say read, it's like I've got a book collection in my office that looks like the London Library, and I've not read any of them, but and I've got loads at home. But I've read little bits like, just try and take your mind off it in terms of our brain, especially being boys. We can't do too much at once. So if you have that overwhelming feeling of anything in any situation, it's like, distract the brain. Smell. I think there's 5 things, and again, we can add that in the comments or whatever. But it's along the lines of like
your 5 senses.
Yeah, the 5 senses. And I genuinely, when I first tried it, I thought, this is, like, I'm sitting there touching the table and sniffing my trainers. And it looked like I'm a Russian gymnast, I think, by the time I finished. But it actually works.
It does,
because your brain's a bit like, oh, what's the texture of that wall? Oh, what? Oh, and then you're like, what was I doing this for? Oh, there's the phone. And even though it sounds stupid, that and the other thing there with the old open mind thing, I think that worked for a lot of people. So.
100%.
There's my therapy advice for the day.
I love it, mate. And do you know what? Like, all of that type of stuff is actually really relevant to the job, because doing a job both as a recruiter and as a business owner, you're going to go through times of rampant anxiety. You're going to go through times of stress, and then you're going to get depressed sometimes and all the rest of it, right? So these techniques are really, really useful. That technique that you mentioned there's a book I have somewhere up there by Emily Fletcher. It's called Stress Less and Accomplish More, because because as a
Okay.
recruiter, I used to be a big old stress head. And she has a technique called come to your senses. And basically, it's exactly what you said. You take an inhale of 5 seconds, and then you think of the most prominent thing you can see with your eyes closed, and then the least prominent thing. Exhale for 5 seconds out, hold for 5 seconds, then in for five. What's the most prominent thing you can hear? And basically do that for all five senses. So when I
Okay.
used to get really, really stressed or really anxious, and when I was young, obviously with what I told you growing up, I had a lot of anxiety, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of those techniques. So I just used to have panic attacks all the time. And my mum would always say, and my mum's really good about this, and she's made me very, very strong, but she would always say, I suffer with panic attacks, and she's got tools and techniques that work for her. But I always used to believe that it was just a genetic thing. So I was just like, oh, I'm having a panic attack, lock myself in the room, freak out for 10 minutes, and then it passes. But as an
Yeah.
adult and as a business owner, you can't afford to have a bloody panic attack before you're going to record a podcast or anything like that. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I posted it on LinkedIn and we've done a bit of a charity fundraiser. But, my wife and I, we fell pregnant at the start of the year. And unfortunately, we lost the baby at I think it was just before the 20-week scan, like a week before. So it was
Yeah.
genuinely probably
Tough, man.
one of the worst things we've ever gone through in our lives. It was horrible, and the way it unfolded in the hospital was horrible. And as you
Yeah.
can imagine, being in and out of hospitals all my life, it triggers a lot of things in my mind. But because I've developed strategies and things like that, I've now managed to go into hospitals and not get overwhelmed, not get anxious and stuff. But when the doctor pulled us aside and we had this horrendous GP just pull us aside and go, yes, a few tests to come back. Not sure what it is yet, but she's probably had a miscarriage. That's probably why there's loads of blood.
Yeah.
We just looked at each other. Sorry,
Yeah.
what? What? That's how you're just going to explain it to us? Like, what the fuck?
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
So we came back out. We were in the waiting room, and you've got to sit with that in the waiting room in the middle of
Bloody
summer.
hell.
And I just remember at the time, my heart rate was increasing. It was hot in there. And there was this really, really overweight woman sat next to me, and my wife sat next to me, and I couldn't move. I couldn't leave the room if I wanted to. So the
Yeah.
anxiety started to build. So then I closed my eyes. I tried to do some breath work, but I was in a packed A&E department. Tried to do the come to my senses thing. And then all of a sudden, I just had this voice in my head, you're going to have a panic attack. Like, this is real. Like, because I'd been, for the last 4 hours of being in A&E, I distracted myself, like you said, like take your mind off of it, make some jokes, look at some memes, blah blah blah. When it became real, I was like, I am going to have a panic attack. I need to get some fresh air right now. And this will probably resonate for people that do suffer with panic attacks and stuff. But basically what I did is I said to Rosie, put my hand on her leg. I was like, I'm really sorry, I need to leave. I'm going to have a panic attack. And she was like, what? And I went, just say that, I'll be fine. Just bear with. Got out. I literally done a lap of the entire hospital. It was pitch black at night. And then just like you said, went over to the lavender bushes because lavender, for whatever reason, reminds me of my mum when we were kids, like going to bed, smell
Love
lavender.
that.
So I was smelling the lavender. I was like counting how many little beads of lavender is on the plant like that. I was seeing if I could see any stars. I could see if I could see how many lights were there. I was like counting my breath. And then all of a sudden I could feel my heart rate go down. And then the logical side of my brain was like, right, this is what's happening. Your wife is in there alone. You now need to be the man. And I know it's like a thing that people, it's like the toxic thing, but you need to man up now. You've dealt with it. You have like comprehended what's happened. You've allowed the emotions to arise, but now you need to be strong for her because she's got that going on. It's a lot worse for her. So you need to go in and be strong. And then for the rest of we had to stay in the hospital for 3 days after that. And it was by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. And only now I can actually speak about it without even having therapy. But I'm just so grateful, James, that throughout all the things that I've had in my life, I've been able to develop strategies. Because, mate, if I was 15 years old, or no, let me rephrase that. If I had my 15-year-old brain in that scenario, I would have been fucking useless. I would have been
You could have run
absolutely
off, couldn't
useless.
you?
I
Literally,
would have
like
run off.
wanted to. Yeah. I think for you, and not just saying this, mate, like you've got to look how far you come from that point.
Mm,
Like that is one. I've not been in that situation. I've got children. I fully understand that, and I've got friends that's happened to and stuff like that. And it genuinely is. It's one of the worst things that's ever going to happen in your life ever. And look what you've done there. And I think what we're both sort of saying here is anything can happen to anyone, really can. And we've all got to learn, if that makes sense. So like we can't, you've gone through it at a lot earlier stage and you look where you are now, like look back and be like, wow, look how different I am. And look, I'm now got my own podcast and I'm actually talking about it. But rewind and tell yourself that at 15 while you're covered in quavers and playing GTA, like you're gonna be like, nah, shut up, that's a load of rubbish. But for me, it's like it's the same. Like that day, I couldn't see a way out at the time. I wasn't brave enough to like go, okay, I'm going to pull out a gun and shoot myself in the head, sort of thing. But I I can look back and go, do you know what? That is the marker. I've got over that. Yes, bad things will happen in your life. Of course they will. People are gonna pass away. You're gonna lose friends. Who That's just a tiny part of life. But as long as 99% of it's good, or you're trying to make it good, you've got to deal with these bits and stuff. And
Mm.
that's life. But if you can talk about it like we are and you can listen to us today and actually think, do you know what? These two guys seem quite cool. We're cool. Um, and maybe not you at 15, but we're cool now.
I
And
was a loser.
yeah, I'm joking. And but if anyone can just be like, do you know what? It's actually all right to feel like that. These boys feel like that, and look at these two. So why can't we feel like that? And like, drop us a message, isn't it? Just even when I've done it on Facebook, to like, and it's like obviously just the personal Facebook, but I reckon there was about, I think there was about 8 people on Facebook and maybe the same on Instagram messaged me and said, you know what? Because of the character I am, and I've always been a bit of a Jack the Lad, sort of
Mm.
like that sort of personality, especially where I come from like quite a small area, knew everyone.
Mm.
Um, the people would say, for you coming out and saying that has made my entire day, because you've allowed me, as someone who hasn't got that bravado and hasn't got that stature in terms of whatever, for you to say it means everyone else should be fine, because they should actually be able to listen and go, well, if he's coming out and talking about it, then why can't we? And that sort of, I've sat there, I was like, yeah, that's what it's about. And that's what, again, we both said, we're not doing this for someone to go, here's the baby violin and we're gonna see it. You're right, mate. No, we're actually doing it because we're adults, we're men who know the society we live in. Um, and you hear about suicides this, suicides that. Mental health for men is mental. It like literally is mental.
It
Like,
is.
I think the statistics are scary. And I think I know of like 3 boys I grew up with who committed suicide. It's like, what the hell?
Same.
And I think there was a couple of recent ones. There was a guy, I won't name any names because I don't know if I'm supposed to even know about this, but there's a guy, a recruiter that committed suicide quite recently,
Mm.
in the south of England. And that sort of hit me, and I was a bit like, what was going on in his mind? Like, is it because no one would talk about it because he didn't feel like he could talk about it? Well, hopefully, for the millions of viewers and listeners for this podcast, including Joe Rogan himself and Stephen Bartlett, the just be willing to do it,
Mm.
and yeah, it's just such a big thing. The minute you open your mouth to talk about it, it just helps,
You
doesn't
do
it?
feel 1,000% better. My wife always pulls me up on it because she and I always have the gender debate, and we talk a lot about the differences between the genders, between the sexes, right? And she's very neutral about it. I wouldn't necessarily say she's like, pro-feminist or whatever. It's like she understands that there are biological differences, societal differences and stuff. And one thing that she's always said to me is that the way I am in comparison to her, if she's having a slight off day, she'll just cry, and
Yeah,
she'll get it off of her chest. She'll call her mum, she'll call her friends, and then she'll be like, I'm having a really tough day. My manager's a wanker, blah, blah, blah. And then she'll get over it, right? Whereas me, I like, and I mentioned this to you on the call. I had Michelle Flynn, who's a health coach on my podcast, and it was my most perfect timing because that day I felt like I was mentally burning out, and I was doing like 2, 3 podcasts every other day, whatever, on site with clients. And Michelle literally said to me, you're doing a lot. And you're on that stage right now that if you carry on, your body is just going to shut down. You're just going to physically burn out. You're mentally burning out right now. Have you spoken to your wife about how you're feeling about feeling a bit overwhelmed? Have you spoken to your friends? I was like, no, I haven't. I'm just getting on with it because if I don't pull in clients, how are we paying the mortgage? Like, yes, Rosie's got a salary, but if we live off of her salary, we're living a terrible life. I have to be the one that has to do this. I'm trying to build a podcast. I'm trying to do this. And I spoke to somebody the other day and he was like, sometimes in life, just slow down to speed up. You can't live in seventh gear all the time because you're going to redline and then you're going to crash and then you can't go anywhere. So the other day I went to go and
that's a
have a
good point.
massage, and she's a life coach and she's a massage therapist, and she's awesome, and she's very direct in her approach as well. And when I told her what I was doing, she's Romanian, so she's just so direct with how she speaks. She just said, Charlie, stop. You're doing too much. I'm out of breath listening to you. You need a reset." And I was like, "Oh, fucking hell." So she done the massage, and then she just literally, she's like, I'm prescribing you to go home and do breath work. I don't want you to go to the gym for the next week. I don't want you to lift weights. I don't want you to go running. Your nervous system needs to relax. You need to reset. And with your work, calm down. It will come. You're thinking, I need to get all the clients now. I need to do this now. It will come. Just
I know.
relax.
It's
And I just,
mad.
it is mad. And I think what you and I spoke about, I think neurotypical people probably experience that as well. But I certainly think it's a lot to do with the ADHD mind, where you get hyper focused, you're really excited about something, you're passionate, and you want more, and you think you can do it all, and you do all this stuff, and then the next day your body and your mind is like, "What have you done? Oh my God, how have you done this? Oh my
Yeah.
God, you could have been cruising in fucking fourth gear, but you've been in seventh gear the whole time. What are you doing?"
That's so true. And we said it, didn't we? Like, it's that's me. Like, I think when we were on the phone as well, we keep relating to it because it genuinely was such a good phone call. I might ring Vodafone, see if they've got it somewhere. But we said about the ADHD, and I said, look, I've definitely got it. I just haven't got the certificate and the badge and the letters after my name. And there's probably all sorts wrong with me. But is there? Like, what about the people that are telling me that? Well, what about that? Aren't we normal and they're actually weird? Like, and I think, again, we both express the feeling we wouldn't change ourselves. Like,
Mm,
that's how it is. We do, even though we get stressed and we do live at a million miles per hour, we do enjoy it. We
mm,
thrive off of it. I love new things and new adventures in
mm,
terms of I'm always trying to grow something. I'm always trying to better something. I'm always looking at my company and being like, right, how do we get better here? How do we get better here? Instead of sitting back and actually going, do you know what? Like, flipping it, £7 million turnover. Like, that's massive. Like, and it's just like, but no, that's to me, that's like, yeah, that'll do. Right, let's what we're doing next year. And then it's like, and then you're writing the list. And I think we joked, I said I walked in a post office once and I was like, I'm going to reinvent the post office like while I'm in a queue for 5 minutes because I didn't like the way you had to send a special delivery. Like, because of that, I went from James Lovell-Butt, the recruiter, to Jeff Bezos's best mate at Amazon because I was like, I'm going to actually reinvent the whole post office. And I'll also go down the route of like, when the government, everyone moans about the government, I'm like, I'll sort it out. Give me 6 months. Let me go in there and I'll sort it out. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll ring all the dragons up. I'll even ring you up. And we'll all go together. Give us 6 months and we'll do it. It's like, no, you won't. Like, you're not going to be going anywhere near the House of Parliament with your ideas. But that's the ADHD part. And again, I've never been certificated, medically confirmed, but I do a questionnaire on the computer and it goes off like I've won the jackpot of Vegas. It's like, you are the winner. Here's your certificate, go to your nearest printer sort of thing. And the reason I sort of like looked at it, so I feel like one of my children, my middle one, he's certainly got the traits of me. We say that he looks like his mum, but he's like me. And the older one's the other way around. But the thing with him is, and what I sort of can resonate with, and I genuinely think it's actually a superpower. Like, I really do. And I know that's been mentioned before, but from a young age, he was an unbelievable football player. Like, I've got videos on my own social media and people are going like, how old's he? And I'm like, he's 6. And he's putting the ball down in about 20 yards from goal and putting it in the top corner in a match and running rings around everyone. But on the same mode of the same boy, he could do that. But then another day you get him and it's squirrel, aeroplane. Oh, and then you're like,
yeah.
you're playing football. He's like, oh, yeah. And that's us. That is that ADHD thing. Like, we get so engrossed in something, which is really good as a salesperson, but we create lists. And if I unfold my lists on my phone and laptop, I either look like a genius or a lunatic. Like, I'm taking over the post office in one hand and I'm trying to rewrite the client process of my recruitment agency in the other. Like, and then I've got I want to create all sorts of carry on. It's like, everything okay? Have you where have you got these from? Is these from the internet? No, I wrote them myself. Like, just an idiot. But I love ADHD. If I have got it, do I need to go and get a certificate and be told yes and No, I don't think I do.
Mm,
I think I just embrace it. And
yeah.
I'm 38 now. Like, I've done all right.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna. Well,
it's
to be
just,
fair, like the only reason why, and I mentioned this to you on our call, the only reason why I ever got diagnosed was because it was beginning to hinder me.
yeah.
And it sounds like you've got techniques, tools, and especially people around you. I think that's what's really important, to have people around you. And this is where, when you hear people talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, I'm big on the thought diversity. So in my team, when I was a manager, my right hand man was what I would say neurotypical, right? And he would always keep me in check. So when I have an idea, I'll be like, right, we're going to do this. We're going to reinvent the post office. He'll be like, okay, cool. We also have 19 retained projects, and you want to go and do this. How about we just do this and then we'll think about that? And I'm like, yeah, great idea. And then I'll forget about it. And if it was actually a really good idea, then I'll go back to it. So you need to have people around you to kind of keep you in check sometimes. A good partner helps, a business partner, colleagues, etc., etc. But I often get asked by recruiters and sometimes by founders, like, obviously I've been vocal about my ADHD diagnosis, and I will say it's literally changed my life for the positive. I don't think my business would be where it is without being on medication, if I'm being quite honest. And people always say to me, "Oh, I think I've got ADHD. Do I go and get a diagnosis?" I only think, and by the way, don't take my word for this entirely. I'm not a medical professional. I just want to be clear.
Yeah. Being cute outside the doctor, isn't it?
I'm just going to say this is my own personal lived experience, so you can't say anything, right? The only reason why I done it is because when I got into L&D, I was a global L&D manager with no L&D experience, right? Which is mental when you think about that. And they gave me like a big list of like their training documentation, and that's the one part of the job that I did that was very fucking boring. It's like having to go through their old training and how to like reinvent it. I love being in front of people, doing the training, coaching people. So when I went home and I was like reading through the training, oh, a squirrel. Oh, go back to this. LinkedIn. Charles, for fuck's sake,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
read this. And then it's been like an hour and there's like a 100-page document and I've gone through 2 pages. And I just remember scratching my head going, oh, this isn't helping you. But then when I got into the office the next day and then they were like, right, can you just do like an off the cusp training session about utilizing like hypnotic language to influence clients to get higher fees? Off the cusp, right? Everyone in a meeting room, do a training session. Everyone's looking at me like, whoa, wow, yeah, like that, because obviously I'm very animated and I'm very like engaging and stuff. And I come out and I'm like, fantastic, right? Let's get back to this thing so I can reinvent the training. From like 12 until 5, I've gone through now 2 pages. And I just remember going
Mm.
home and I'm just like, right, I need to go and seek medical professional help because this is not helping me. And I mentioned this to you, right? And I've said this to some people before. When I sat down with the psychologist or a psychiatrist, sorry, and you have to have a parent or your school reports, right? Which obviously I didn't have the school reports. He said to me after, and I found this really interesting. You you've got a good job, you're not in debt, you're not addicted to drugs, you have no current mental health issues. Why the fuck are you getting a ADHD diagnosis? Your life is fine. And I looked at him, I was like, sorry, what? Like what you were
Yeah.
saying earlier about like, oh, it's from the exterior, I'm fine. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I explained to him that every day for me is like climbing a mountain, but I have got a backpack on my back full of 1,000 rocks. So yes, I can climb the mountain, but you climb the mountain with no backpack. So every fucking day for me is just a struggle. It's just a
Yeah.
fight. I've got to get up every morning and put my gum shield on and put my fucking guard up every day. I don't want to have to live life on hard mode. Can I just live it on like me? I know life is hard, but can you please make it a little bit easier for me?
Yeah.
And then he asked me, like, we'll probably prescribe you medication. And all throughout my life, my mum had doctors trying to get me and my brother diagnosed and medicated. And my mum was like, I don't want my kids on medication. We'll change the diet and all the rest of it. And I think she did the right choice there. But I said to my mum, we've tried everything. I've done meditation, I've tried journaling, I've tried different diets. I've done everything. The only thing I haven't done is medication. So I'm just going to try it and see what happens. James, the first fucking day I come into the office, I open up my folder. I was like, right, my day plan from like 9 until 10, I'm just going to go through the training documentation. By 9:30, it was done.
Oh wow.
I was like, oh
Wow.
my
Okay.
God. Because everyone in the office, and you know what it's like in a recruitment office, is like loads of fucking things going off, phones going
Yeah.
off. That was blocked out. And all of a
Wow.
sudden, I
Okay.
can concentrate on something for 5 seconds. And I went home, and my wife was like, oh, can you put your washing away? I was like, yeah, sure, done the washing. And then I came downstairs. I was like, oh, you making dinner? And she looked at me and went, did you just put the washing away? I was like, yeah. And she's like, that usually takes you 3 fucking weeks. I was like, oh, yeah. And I tidied up my office and I planned everything. And then I just broke down and I fucking cried. I was like, is
Wow.
this what most people are like? Like, because normally there's like 1,000 voices in my head just talking to me at once. And I broke down and I cried and I was just like, I can't believe that I've been living my life on fucking hard mode this whole
Wow. Okay.
time.
That's such a, you've now made me want to like actually, I take medication for the anxiety stuff
Mm,
and or whatever they want to call it. Really. I don't actually know why I take the medication in fairness. But stuff listening to that, it does resonate. And I think that's really going to resonate with a lot of people listening to this is we are living life on hard mode and simple tasks for two intelligent people can we can get distracted. But you, like you say, you and me are quite very similar in terms of put us in a room in front of people and go, right, you two, can you get these 100 people better at sales by the end of the week? I guarantee we would.
mm,
Like, there's no ifs or nuts about it. You do it on your own, but I feel like together we do it twice as good. But then you say, like, especially to me, and obviously you're definitely further down the line in terms of you with the ADHD stuff. James, you couldn't go home and read that 100-page document about sales and how you should open phone calls. I'd probably throw it in the bin. I'll be like, can't read that, no good to me. And I do that. I'll go on the train and I go to read and I'll open the book. Next thing you know, I'm on my phone. Next thing you know, I'm writing a list about how to transform the train system. And then, and then, and then like, oh, spotted a newspaper. What's that? Oh, uh, buy a coin for £9 million, but you never know. But it's got King Charles's face on it. Okay. And then by that time, it's, oh, by the way, it's your train stop. Oh, crap. Yeah, where's my bag? And then it's like, yeah. So what you've said there, yeah. Do you know what? I am actually going to go and ask because I think for all the talking about uh like being able to talk about stuff and
mm,
not being a stereotypical 1960s man is actually my answer to ADHD and be like, why do I need a certificate? Well, you've actually just what you've just said there, and we haven't said that on the phone call before, is you've just made my brain go, actually, can I have a bit of an easy mode? It'd be quite nice. Like,
yeah.
I want to beat a team 10-0 instead of draw 1-0. Like, it is
Mm.
FIFA. I'll play 1-0 and I'll try and win 2-1, but can I have a couple of 10-0s? It'd be quite nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually going to do something about it. There you go.
Yeah.
That's
Fair. And
podcast
by the
done,
way,
finished. Done. No.
and by the way, I'm not a pharmaceutical sales rep, and
Yeah.
I don't. And I'm not trying to tell people to go out and do the medication thing. I just have to say that as a disclaimer. But but yeah, I mean, like, listen, for me, I was so lucky, like really, really lucky. I asked them to put me on the lowest possible dose, and they put me on the lowest possible dose. And then after 3 months, you have to have like psychiatric evaluations and then physicals and all the rest of it because it's a controlled substance. And they were like, is it going okay? Do you need to go up? I was like, do you know what? I could probably go on a higher dose, but I don't need it because I already had the tools and techniques because I'd spent the last 2 years pre-official diagnosis understanding what ADHD actually is and why I do certain things and develop strategies. But again, like I said, it became too difficult for me, especially with aspirations of growing a business, that I needed the additional support. But there are some people. I had Callum on my podcast. I think episode came out a couple of days ago. He had to try like 6 different types of medications.
Oh
One
wow.
of because it's essentially speed, basically. It's an amphetamine,
Yeah.
but it's a controlled substance. And the first time he took it, he said he had laser focus and he got more done in one day than he would do in a week, but he didn't eat all day because it's
Wow.
an
Okay.
amphetamine. So he had that. Then he tried another brand. Then he had like really bad anxiety. So then he went off the meds for a while, and then he struggled with business. Then he went back on a super low dose of one. And then I think now he does it. I don't want to speak for him, but he does it every now and then when he kind of needs it. And that's kind of where I'm at now is that if I
Wow.
have days of like intense admin, editing the podcast, creating content, and that type of stuff, then I would say I probably need it. If there is a day that I'm just going to do a training session in the morning and then I'm going to do a few one-to-one coaching sessions, I don't really need it. It can help. It helps me kind of laser in a little bit, but I just need it because naturally I would say, and I'm sure you're the same, admin is like the devil to me. I
Oh, I
fucking
hate it.
hate admin. I always used to put it off. If I had enough money, I would hire someone to do all my admin and all that type of stuff,
That's
right?
what I need to do. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I'll say on that. I'm conscious that we could probably ramble on about this for the entire show, and I'm sure there's loads of value for people. But um, with everything that you've just said there, and we've talked about, the tools, the techniques that have helped you, and the ADHD stuff and all the rest of it. I know we spoke a lot on our call, and you talked to Leisha about this on her show about the 1% club, right? And being like a top performer. Obviously, your business turning over 7 mil, and like you're a top performing recruiter and business owner yourself. There's a lot of people that want to be a top performer, but they're not willing to have or to sacrifice things to become that or work hard for it. Just tell me a little bit about kind of what you have done in your life, in your business, in your career to be that top performer. What things have you put in place for you to be ultra successful in what you do?
I think the whole statement, isn't it? It's like everyone wants to finish, but they don't want the journey, isn't it? Like it's like, and it's so true. Like I'm quite a big believer in time and what sort of effort you put in, and that isn't the golden answer to my 1% club. But even now, 18 years, or I'm going into my 18th year in recruitment, which is a long time. Like, is a long time. I will be. I still get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I go to the gym before work. Yes, I eat like a flipping pig and eat too much sugar, but I go to the gym. It works for me. I'm energized. I'm walking down the road to the office with energy. I'm not floating on the train with my hood up going, oh, I've got to go to work. I'm just trying to do that extra. And that's where the whole 1% club thing comes from. It's like, you've got to think that there's someone in your head as good as you sat next to you, a twin of you, and then multiply that by 1,000,000 and then go, right, how am I going to outbeat my twins? Like, how am I going to be better? Because everyone wants to make money. Are they all willing to do it? No, but there's a lot of people. Like, I'm not the only one who wants to drive a Ferrari and loves nice trainers, like, and nice things. I'm not the only guy. Half of London just walk around Bank on a Thursday afternoon. But I believe that doing them extra bits, get in the office earlier. Especially, this is more definitely towards like recruiters and myself, but utilize your time. Think and look around what others are doing. Do something better than them, even if it's like running out the door. I've had people work with us who they talk the talk and they go, yeah, want to make loads of money, want to be like you, James, you, Sam and Harry, like, you're exactly what I want to be like. And I'm like, are you up for getting there though? Because I tell you now, I don't think you are, because I see you float in the office at 8:30 with your coat on. I see you wander out to the kitchen and make your porridge because it's cool. I eat about 6 Weetabix, and then at 5:30 you're running out of the office like it's a shop because the shutters are down and no one else coming in. Well, I'll tell you now, you're not going to last very long. And then we ramp the pressure up and they don't work with us no more. Like, and he knows who he is and he's cool. I like him, but it's just that stereotypical. Just do more than everyone else. End of story. Just utilize your time. Work out where your time's best spent. That becomes with experience. But listen to people around you. Like, I give that advice to everyone. I set them a structured day plan, but I call that the motorway. Drive down the motorway, but you will have to come off and on, and then we'll get back on the motorway at all times. And just be better than the person. Just be better than the person sitting next to you. Forget your million other replicas in London or the country or the world. Just be better than the person next to you, because then you're not bottom of the league. Simple as. Like, and that can be anything from getting early. I personally am an early bird. I like that time, but if I don't go to the gym and I go to our other office, I don't go to the gym over there. So I try 9 times out of 10, I'll be sat at my desk at 7 o'clock in the morning over there. That's not for everyone. I get it. But between 7 and like the official start time of 8:30 for our office, I get so much done because I'm awake. I've just driven down the motorway. I've had probably not had breakfast, but I've probably already threw a can of Coke by that time. And but I'm just so, like, I can get so much stuff done. So when it does come to 8:30, and you guys, my competition as such, not you in particular, but you guys and everyone else out there who are listening are, okay, you're coming at 8.
Mhm.
Get yourself sorted, have a chat. Oh, how was the football last night? Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
At 8:45, you press start. I've already been playing, mate. I've already done. I've played, scored, and I've already been in the shower, and I'm back out for my second match. Like, I'm beating you, mate. You crack on with your 8:45 starts. Good luck to if you work in my industry and in my sector, in my particular niche. You better pray that there's a miracle out there, because everywhere you turn, I will be, because I'm already there earlier than you. And that's just one part of it. It's just like just thinking about stuff, and it is all really basic. And like,
Mm.
I've played football for most of my life. My kids obviously learning like football and stuff, and they always say in football, and I've got friends who've become Premier League professional football players, some of them, and sports people, and just the basics.
Mm.
Like, that is a basic thing. Work out your time, plan your week, however it looks like. Where do you want to get by the end of the week? And just make sure you bloody get there. And it's not a shop job. And obviously, this 1% Club is very positioned to sales and recruitment, because that's the industries we work in.
Mm.
But I've said this to like builder mates. I've said this to like, it can be relatable to anything: relationships, fatherhood, work, saving money, diet. Don't count diet in my book, but I will do it one day. But it's just do better than you did yesterday. Do better than the person sitting next door to you. Do better than just do better. No, just genuinely, like, it's so, because I do it and I'm so passionate about it. It is actually quite exhausting talking about it sometimes, because you're like, I'm not telling you how to fly Elon Musk's spaceship round the moon and land it back on a 2p piece in the middle of the desert. I'm just saying, just be up for it, because I'll tell you now, you can't make money easily. There's no way of making any easy money. It's a lie. Yeah, you people, oh, he's a bit lucky. Oh, that guy, oh, he's had a bit of luck, hasn't he? Come and sit in my shoes for a week. 18 years in, still chucking 60 hours a week out there. And I'm a dad, and I'm a husband, and on the weekend I'm a free taxi driver to my children. And then do you want to play or not? Like, are you up for it? Because this is all the trappings you can get, and you can have everything you want. But are you up for it? Like, and that's we've just hired a trainee. By saying just hired, we've offered him a job, he's accepted, and he starts in a couple of weeks. And we were, before, when we first started, we were quite easy with trainees. We were a bit like, do you know what? He's a nice lad. He's 21. He seems quite hungry. Now we really ramped up our interview process in terms of, I sat there, I've gone from like, come and work with us, to, why should I let you sit in my office? And not in a rude or obnoxious way, but like, why should you be? And do you know what? He randomly, a fair play to this guy. And his name's Tom Morgan, and he's starting for us. So any other agency out there, good luck. He's out. But he's already started by the time this comes out. But what I really liked about him was, we had a couple of good people, but he had listened to my podcast with Leisha randomly. He mentioned the 1% Club. He's 21 years old. He didn't have the best growing up period of time growing up, but he wants to do better. You could just get it from, when you can just like, he's genuine. I hope he is, because I told him, I said, I hope I don't get you for a month. And I turned around and go, Tom, why are you lying to me? Like, you told me you're quite good. But he just had that, like, think about him. He was really interested in where his career could go. He was really like, how does me as Tom coming to work with you, James, mean that I can be part of this 1% Club? What can you do for me? And I was like, okay, threw me a little bit. It was more like, what can you do for me? And he's like, no, what can you do for me? And I was like, you listen to me and you willingly let me mentor you, because I still do that. Like, that's my role, and that's the role I'm trying to achieve, is I want to sit with people that are willing to listen and be like, right, I will get what you're doing. I will add my 1% spice to your curry, and I will make you a better recruiter. End of story. I will sharpen it up. And obviously I've talked to you, and I've gone, and we're going to do stuff together in the near future, because I'm also wise enough and honest enough about my own job to come to someone. You're the expert. That's what it says on the tin anyway. But you are, like, that's what you told me. But it's true. Like, you're going to get the 1% club out of my company that I won't be able to. But my 1% is better suited in other areas, like, and that's also 1% itself. If I'm willing to be open to someone else external coming into aiming, no, when none of us are flipping Cristiano Ronaldo of football, like we're really good at our job, of course we are. Like, and I happily say that. But you just doing something extra. My extra is talking to you, not just about this podcast, it's actually talking to you about your other business and how you can help my recruitment companies and brand and what have you. And that's me doing one. I could sit there and go, yeah, James, I'm the best. I'm the best in town. Like, I'll go against anyone else. Yeah, I will. But for me to actually go, I'm going to go and why can't I increase I want to be better than the person next to me. We know there's a lot of good founders out there, and you've got a lot coming up on your panel. Like I've seen, obviously, when you done your LinkedIn post, saw a few at a recent event where you and me were at, and yeah, just doing just a little bit extra.
I love
that.
Sorry,
drop the mic. Thanks for coming. But I'm so passionate about it. I know it does come out, but it's not hard. That's the biggest thing anyone can get from it. It is not difficult to be 1% better than either the person sitting next to you or yourself yesterday. That's the statement.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you kind of answered the last question that I was going to ask you anyways, to be honest with you, but I'm going to unpack a few things that you said and I mentioned that when I first got into recruitment, one of my first ever managers, and I mentioned this on Leish's podcast actually, he was like absolutely off chops one night, and I said to him, he's a contract recruiter. He'd been doing that market for 10 years, and he was like consistently billing like 15, 20 grand a week, like week on, week out. And he just said to me, he's like, mate, like there's no secret sauce to this. You just got to want it. And I was just like, as a youngster, I was just like, yeah, but there must be like some techniques that you use. And he went, mate, recruitment ain't hard, but it's fucking hard. And I was like,
yeah,
what?
That's such a good point.
It's the easiest, hardest job you'll ever do. You're basically, and this is the third time this is going to be mentioned on this podcast, is legal human trafficking. You find a candidate for a client, you find a client for a candidate. That's all it is, right? And obviously, there's all the little nuances and all the rest of it. But what's hard about the job is that you can come into the office at 8:05 and another recruiter would have called that candidate at 8 o'clock and you lose out on 10 grand. You can.
Yeah.
I got
a mental, isn't it?
It's crazy. I had a recruiter. He done like a record-breaking deal. All fucking great, amazing, brilliant. Candidate breaks his leg during his probation, and the candidate became a bit of a vicious bastard. And then they let him go, and now they've got to do a replacement for that. That's 14 grand deal, or no, not 14. I think it's like 4 grand of his commission that he's going to lose out for something out of his control. So you've got to manage your mind. And we talked at the start of the podcast around how do you deal with that. And yesterday, the start of our coaching session, you could see he was down in the dumps. It's like, I'm losing out this money, blah, 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 blah. By the end of the session, we figured out using his ratios, like how many deals he needs to do to hit his target and bill 70K in the next quarter. And by the end of the session, he's looked up and gone, I don't feel like I felt so shit at the start of the session. I went, mate, it's not because of me. I'm not a magician. I've just allowed you to reframe the situation. And that's what you've got to do as a recruiter. And that's another aspect of being 1% better is you're always going to have shit that happens. You're going to come in some days at 7 a.m. or at 9 a.m. and there's going to be a bomb on your desk and you have to be a firefighter for the rest of the day. But it's how you kind of deal with that and go again. That's part of this job. That's like one of the key skills to be successful as a business owner, as a recruiter, as a manager, is that bounce back ability. Because there's so many days in your life as a recruiter that you are a metaphorical firefighter. You come in and it's just like, James, none of your candidates turned up to the interview. They're all at the wrong site. Oh, fuck. Like, like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, things happen.
So true, isn't it?
And you see a lot of recruiters that break in this job because they're like, oh, I've done 50K this quarter. It's all good. And then all of a sudden, their pipeline falls out of bed and then they're like, oh, and they sulk for the rest of it and then they moan and then they blank and then they blank and then they blank because they haven't got over it. So yeah, everything you were saying there just brings back so many vivid memories of when I first got into the industry and like just like on my way into London on Instagram, like following like these motivational pages of like I remember coming into London in the winter, being the first person in the office, like by the time everyone's come in and I'm like top of the leaderboard and calls and all the rest of it. And I think there's a certain amount of time you can do that depending on what your goals are. If your goal is to be the best ever and all the rest of it, which from your perspective, you've demonstrated you want to outperform everyone, all the rest of it, obviously from my perspective, I always wanted to be a coach. So once I got to that sort of high level and I wanted to do my Thai boxing after work, I wanted to go and play football with my mates. I just remember thinking, can I do this job 9 to 5 and still bill and be profitable and still be a fairly high performer? I don't really care about being number one. I just don't, I want to be a fucking elite guy and very good at what I've done. So I just basically just done fully retained, literally came in every day at 8:30, 9 o'clock, left every single day at 5:30, 5 o'clock. And I remember all the senior consultants like, you're a senior person in this business. You should be leading from the front and doing late shifts. Fuck off. I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I've hit my target. I want to go and kick the shit out of people at my Thai boxing class now. Like, do you know what I mean?
So true.
What my goals are different.
Yeah, and I think that is as well. Like, what is the goal? You don't. I'm not telling everyone, and when we're saying about it, you don't have to work 25 hours a day. Like, you don't have to do that. You've just got to be quite smart with your time. And it is, you've just stuck, and that's nothing to do with the 1%, but it is a roller coaster. For recruitment, it is a marmite, isn't it? If you love recruitment, and I think there's a saying that if you do a year in recruitment, you'll never leave or something. I'm still here now. But it's, you've just got, for like new recruiters listening as well, is like, just understand that the better days will outweigh the bad days, but you've got to be big, tough, and strong and resilient enough to deal with the bad days, because the bad days will break most people. And like you say, you can sit on your mountain and wave your flag, but don't spend too long waving the flag, mate, because in a minute you're going to have an avalanche, you're going to fall down the mountain. But you've got to be good enough to go back and put another flag. Back down, back up, back down, back up, back down. And the numbers, it is a numbers game. Once that month, quarter, year's over, no one really cares.
Got to go again.
You've spent your commission, the business has spent the money, we're going back again. And that is, if you're up for that, no better job.
Yeah.
End of. I'd have loved to be a football player, but yeah, I don't think it's going to happen anymore.
Maybe.
I think Saka's too good. And I just think there's no better job for me. I love it. I genuinely enjoy recruitment because I enjoy the buzz of the sale. I enjoy the buzz of the call. I enjoy the easy bits when you do have the candidate ready for the client. And the client goes, yeah, I'll have him. I'll interview him tomorrow. Oh, cool, I'll have him. 10 grand. And you're like, it looks wicked. You unravel it all. And the 18 years of experience have got me to that easy point. But and also, yeah, I just love it. It's a wicked job, but it is an emotional one. And I think when without going back into it, is the whole mental health, especially it's quite a male, I'm sure there's a lot more men in recruitment than girls, but girls are actually a bit more resilient than men sometimes. They're a bit tougher. They are, like, sorry, but they can be. And it's all about understanding that you are going to have them bad days. And with the mental health side of it is, and obviously bringing it into businesses, is just be willing to talk about it. There's probably, you're not the first and you're not the last that's going to happen to. If you're not the founder, and there's a chance that if you are the trainee and you fit into the under 25 category, and I'm sure there's going to be people over 30, there's going to be someone in that office who's pretty much probably felt the way you have. You've just got to be willing to talk about it and just talk about it. I actually think now our generation and what we're doing is we're actually flipping the whole male textbook analogy round, because the 1960, my granddad, tough as old boots, catching wasps in his hand, like literally what he used to do, and we'd just be like, you're crazy. It's actually coming full circle, not full circle, it's actually going the other way around, because I now have more respect for someone like yourself, who, after a few text messages as such on LinkedIn, to speak on the phone, opened up to me, and I felt comfortable enough to open up to you. My respect level for you was straight to the top. Now, if you'd been like, we'd got to know each other, come on your podcast, and a year down the line, you go, do you know what, James? Yeah, I used to feel like that one sometimes. I'd respect you for saying it, but I'd be like, you should have bloody said it earlier. Because I'd have more respect for people like that now. So just get rid of the bloody bravado. It's 2024. Talk about it. End of story. Move on. Help if you need it. Encourage each other. Go and make loads of money. Buy a Ferrari and drive around London thinking you're the man. Done.
I love it. Do you know what? On top of what you said, and I'm going to use your analogy to give the fucking cherry on the icing of the cake that you've just given us, that yes, you talk about it and you can wave your white flag at the top of the mountain, but you still need to keep going because there's unfortunately a lot of people on social media, and I've had to unfollow a few mental health advocates on LinkedIn that spend their whole fucking time moping around with the little violin, like, oh, my
Mhm.
life is really hard. I get it. Yeah, people have had hard lives and stuff, but and I get that you can't necessarily be going, this is what worked for me, so it's going to work for you, because that doesn't necessarily work for everyone. But I'm really big on offering solutions that work for yourself so that people can try them, right? As long as it's like, healthy, not prescribing things like, for example, I spoke to you about this, like when I had some issues before, I experimented with recreational smoking weed, right? I would never advise people to do that because some people have a really bad side effect to that. It helped me at the time, then it didn't work, right? But what I'm trying to say here is talk about it with people, make sure you talk about it to the right people, because sometimes you'll
Yeah, that's a
talk
good
about
point.
it and you go, like, if I, if I worked in your business and you weren't really like the way you are, and I went, James, what, I'm feeling a bit anxious. Fuck, get over it, mate. That would make me feel
Yeah,
a lot worse. So make sure firstly
yeah,
you speak to people that you can trust, or people that would be able to have that conversation. But men, women, just humans in general, deal with the issue and then do your best to get on with it, because unfortunately the biggest problem is if you talk about this problem, and I see this a lot, especially with my generation, generations below, is they talk about, I've got anxiety or depression or mental health, and they cling a hold of that identity and they never surpass it because they're always
yeah,
talking about it. They're always, oh, that's just my
yeah.
anxiety, James, that's just how I am. And it's like, no, it's not your anxiety, it's not your depression, it's not your mental health. That's just a moment that has happened due to an experience that has happened. You can get past that because you're a human being. Okay. And it might take
So true.
professional help. It might take pharmaceutical help. It might take herbal help. It might take talking therapy, physical therapy. It doesn't matter. Just try anything and everything you can to deal with that issue. And more than likely, 99.9% of people can deal with those issues and flourish in this beautiful life that we have.
100%. So true, isn't it? That is it really. Like there genuinely isn't the people, like you say, the people that cling on to it and use it as an excuse as such. Do you know what I mean? Like I've had crippling anxiety, like I genuinely have, and to the point where I think my throat's going to close up and I need
Mm.
water, and I'm like, I'm going to die, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Like, no, no, you're not going to die. You're still here, mate. Like, everything's all right. But it's just, I openly talk about it to let people know that just get like, my life from the outside is probably a lot of people's dream lives especially from where I've not just from where I grew up and that, but I tick all the materialistic boxes, put it that way.
Mm.
Um, but just understand that I'm getting on with it. I've had a day where my whole entire world crashed down. I could have been in the middle of an African desert or in a palace surrounded by my Bugattis.
Mm.
It did not matter. Like my world inside my brain that I've lived with for 38 years was saying, what is going on? And I'm not, I don't care about that. I don't want to sit here and talk about it. I'm like, yeah, it happened. Wicked. I'm cracking on, mate. Other things to do. Like my
Mm.
recruitment company's growing. I want to get the best out of people. I'll talk about mental health. Yeah. If I can help someone, I will feel good because I'm allowing my experience to prevent you from having that experience. That's
Mm.
the big heart inside me. But
Mm.
apart from that, let's get on with it and make some money, yeah, because my turnover's going up and my profits going down because they're sitting there with no money. So like it's just don't be negative. Don't be like just look around you. Like find some I get people who've got bloody tough lives. I've met people with lives that we would be like, how are you even here? Like, how have you even survived a day in that life, let
Mm.
alone 30 years? And likewise, you've had some incredibly bad experiences,
Mm.
more than most. But there could also be a guy that sat next to you that would make you feel like you've lived a dream.
Exactly.
So it's like, and
It's
you're
all
not running
relative.
around going, yeah, like, just, it's not get on with it because that's going back to our 1960 version, but it's actually like, take it, use it, draw a line, use it as a reference because no day will be as bad as that. So any day's better.
Mm.
Simple. Like, there you go. Therapist. I'm a therapist, a flipping recruiter, all sorts. But yeah,
100%,
no,
mate.
it's been wicked, mate. I am very passionate about it. But I'm also very passionate about you've got to crack on in this world. We live in a
Yeah.
very small country. I operate out of London. It's very intense, very
Mm.
competitive. I'm in an office block here in London. I know on our floor alone, these like service offices, I think there's now every single office on this floor is a recruitment company.
That's
Couldn't make it
crazy.
up.
That's
We're the
crazy.
best. But if they want to listen. But we all do different stuff. But there's some good lads on here. There's some really good recruiters. And it's very, very competitive. But if you want to do the 1%, if you want to express yourself, if you want to roll your sleeves up, you can make whatever you want out of it. Money, freedom, you name it. And it's good fun.
Mm.
Um, just crack on and keep listening to your podcast, eh? That's the way
Love it.
forward.
Love it. Mate, honestly, we could probably chat for
My God.
fucking you could do a 12-hour podcast at this point,
Yeah,
honestly.
it's a charity.
I've genuinely really enjoyed it. And look, I pretty much enjoy every guest that I have on, but this is, I think, a really, really important one because yes, the industry is very male dominated. Yes, there are a lot more women coming through. And I said this to somebody on one of their posts the other day about the differences between men and women. And I'm not going to say all women and all men because there are some men that are better than this and blah, blah, blah. But statistically speaking, more women are better at talking about their feelings. When my missus meets
Yeah.
up with her friends, they'll crack open a bottle of wine and they'll just chat. When I meet up with my friends, PlayStation turns on, or we go swing golf clubs, or we do things together. We don't really talk about
Yeah.
these issues. So I
Don't do
think
that.
it's a really important thing for people in the industry because it is a slog, mate. It can be difficult, and we're going into winter, and it's going to be dark mornings and dark evenings. You're doing these long hours. It's stressful, and I just hope that there are more leaders in this industry that are like you that are able to openly talk about this, share their experiences, and more people and more recruiters that can also open up about it, but not fall into the trap of being a victim. You've had your
Yeah.
issues, you talk about them, you deal with them, and then you move on the best way that you can. And if you can't move on and you need to take some time out and seek professional help, there's no shame in that as long as you're trying. I think that's the biggest thing. And
100%.
that's my thing
Million
about being
percent.
1% better. Just try.
There you go. No, perfect, mate. Exactly perfect.
Wicked. All right, James. Well, look, thank you very much. If you mentioned obviously people to reach out to you, I'm assuming the LinkedIn's the best approach
Yeah,
to
listen, if
reach out to
anyone
you.
that wants to, and especially like if you want a job now, if anything, if you want to open up, and it is easier sometimes to open up to a stranger, and I feel like as we are working in recruitment, we are our own little world. We genuinely are. It's a unique job. So yeah, if you want to just drop me a message and be like, look, I'm having struggles with this. You're a stranger, so I feel like much more easier to talk to. Then please do, and I'm sure you're the same. Your inbox is always open, and also, I've done it for a long time. Like if you want random advice of someone who thinks he's done all right out of it and who thinks he knows what he's talking about, then yeah, message me because yeah, I'm still here. I'm still hungry. I'm hungrier than ever at the moment in terms of recruitment. I'm really like, yeah, I'm really moving things forward with both agencies and stuff. And yeah, we're coming for the lot. So
Love
please,
it.
yeah, message me. LinkedIn, I've got a unique surname. You'll find me easily. And there you go. Yeah, no problem at all.
Love it, mate. The last thing I'll say before I click stop, I'm so passionate about shifting the perception of the recruitment industry and getting away from what it was in the 80s, 90s, noughties, etc. And one of the biggest ways to shift the perception is for people like yourself and people like me, more so yourself, to open your inbox, to open your phone to other recruiters, to other founders, and say, like, look, I've made mistakes. If you want to learn from me and I can learn from you, because historically, recruitment is, even if someone done life sciences and you done construction, historically, it's like, fuck off, mate. I'm not going to help your business. Do you know what I
I
mean? I'm going to
know.
head down. I think that's a very archaic mindset, and I commend you, sir. So thank you once again for coming on. And look, when I do these face to face in 2025, I'm fucking certain we'll do this again.
Good man. Thank you very much, mate.